Guys, another video for First Form, and it's supposed to be more about some things I've overcome and mistakes I've made, and also where I see myself in the future. And so, you hear that? That's English. Yeah, I'm speaking English. I'm from Korea. I'm from Incheon, South Korea. I know some of you out there asked, North or South. I'm from South. I came to the U.S. when I was 8, and I've mastered this wonderful Midwestern Wisconsin accent. So as hard as it was to learn English with its non-rules, I just say it's the easiest thing I've ever had to overcome in my life. Now, I'm not going to do like a year-by-year summary of what I've gone through and just a recount of my childhood, if you want to call it that. There's a lot, so stick with me because it's a page turner. The most difficult thing I've ever had to overcome, I believe, sums it up by being not being a victim anymore of my past. The first memories I've ever had are of being abused. That's been a reoccurring theme, no matter what family I lived with or what city, what country. I mean, it just kind of followed me around. And I don't like talking about it. It seems like the word abuse itself has been abused. So I'm only really bringing it up, well, mostly because that's a huge chunk of what I've gone through up until my teens. But because maybe someone out there who catches this video needs to hear some of these things, and I don't know, maybe it would help him in any way. Because I'm a firm believer that I've only survived this much because it's meant to help somebody. My story is supposed to really help somebody, and I'm not really going to get into it. So like I said, the first memories are of abuse. And it went on for years, if I recall it right. My brain's really blocked out a lot. My birth father, actually, I should just say dad because I knew him. He died when I was about 6 or 7, and my brother and I were sent to live in an orphanage home by my mother. And we got to experience that for about 6 months. They try to group us by age, like, from 2 to 12 or 13, and separate the girls by the boys. Which, it was just madness. All these kids running around. We had one room to share for eating and sleeping. We didn't really have, downtime, because we had to attend, I think, classes it was supposed to be for English and general, school, but none of it really stuck. There's my English. Stayed with us. But yeah, that was insane. And what do you know? I was abused there too. It wasn't as bad as, you know what? I'm not even going to call it abuse. I was raped all those years before I even got to this orphanage. So that's when I say it wasn't as bad. It was just a matter of the older boys chasing me in front of the church to the point where I'm knocked out and I go down the stairs. I mean, that kind of stuff. It was better than some of the things I had gone through beforehand. What it did teach me there was, I think, time management. I had already been pretty much raising my little brother, who was only a year younger, just making sure he was okay. He was a boy of the family in an Asian culture, traditional Asian home. So that was my job, to make sure he was fine. But at the orphanage home, we had to keep track of what time we had to go to class, when was our laundry day that we had to do by ourselves, who was supposed to help out in the kitchen, all that little stuff that, I mean, what child? I mean, I was 8, so I knew enough by then, but some of these kids were about 5 or 6 or even younger, so that was a good experience. And anyway, so we came to the US, and holy culture shock, Batman. I can't even tell you, like, just one thing. Minor thing is, like, supermarket. Never been to one. We had just a market, outside market, and then a wet market for the fish. So that was insane. But from that to the language to all the eye contact, God, that kills still now. Like, I'm still learning to, having to look at people in the eye. And all that touching too, there was none of that. It was just, you know, you speak when you're spoken to, and you just kind of stay out of people's way. That's how I grew up. And within a month, I think, of our arrival, the abuse started again. Once again, not as bad, but different forms. And actually that went on until I was 13, so about 5 years. The only reason it stopped was because the person who was doing the abusing was found out. And what do you know, while we were in the house, he decided to kill himself. When I think about it, I just hear a lot of screaming. My then adopted mom had found him. She and I were just talking, and then she went off to go find him. And she just started screaming. And at that time, it was a ranch house, so she was on one end of the house. And as soon as she started screaming, my brothers came in, and I had to take control of the situation, which meant taking them to the basement quickly and finding a movie and just, I don't know how I calmed them down, if I even calmed them down. I mean, there was a lot of noise, sirens, footsteps, and yelling. But you know what? That part of the abuse was over, so I was a bit relieved once it was just done with. The only thing with that, though, is that it caused more problems for me. One of my counselors that I had ended up going to had said that I was a visual reminder of all the abuse and what this person did. So I ended up getting sent away, and with everything being blamed on me. I don't know how that's possible. I was 13. But I ended up getting a flight back to Korea to live with a mom who sent us away. So, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. My birth mom, or my mom, because once again I lived with her beforehand, she kind of tried to make up for things by, I don't know, like tucking me into bed. By the time I went to Korea, I was 15, so it was kind of late, but it was nice of her to try. Until she brought the guy that did most of the abuse in Korea. We did correspond for a little bit, and I ended up I thought I explained what happened while I was living there. I don't know if she just didn't understand or she just didn't care, but we ended up having to eat with this guy. I ended up having to eat with this guy. And at that point, it was, I decided that there was no future there either. I was given the choice to stay in Korea, or to come back to the US. So, I was kind of, lose either way, but I sure wasn't going to stay there where my so-called mom was going to put me in that position again. So I came back to the US thinking I was coming back to the original family, but no, I got sent to another crazy family in a different city, and that was, I think, where it just went to hell. This family, there was no sexual abuse, but there was a lot of just humiliation on my part. I don't know how many nights or days I've gone just barely eating, because they didn't keep any food in the house. They went out to eat a lot, and I was never invited. If they did eat at home, and I'd come downstairs to, I don't know, eat my one meal for the day, there would be no place set for me, and she would just sit there and just laugh in my face, and then I'd just be sent back upstairs. So I've had to go and ask my friends for money so that I could eat lunch. Or I think a few of them finally figured it out and just packed extra food for me. And then I just kind of gave up. All along with any of these families, I was honor roll student in every kind of activity that I could get my hands on. And, being the perfect daughter. And it's like, what's the point? So this honor roll student became a teen mom. And I was actually sent to live in a maternity home at age, I think 16 by then. And actually the people who ran the home ended up adopting me. My guardian that took me there, during the interview had told my parents now, that nobody would want me, that nobody would ever want me. Sorry. And my parents now, them, Mike and Colleen, they had never met me. They didn't know anything about me. But they told Marilyn that they will love me, that they'll take me in. They just literally saved my life. So I've been with this family since then. It hasn't been perfect, but it's a family, and they haven't sent me away for any reason. And I think since then I've given them plenty of reasons. I don't have that child Gloria, that I had when I was 16. And the adoption itself, once again, was another trigger. I ended up going into, I just started doing drugs and alcohol. I mean, it just really, when I say it went to hell, it just went to hell. I'd had enough of life, and it seemed like no matter how hard I tried, it just didn't matter. So I just gave up. And I continued to party, I think, from the age of 19 until, I got pregnant at 22. And I swear that she was an angel, Jasmine, because that straightened up my life. I immediately stopped drugs. In fact, I couldn't do it. That's how I knew something was wrong. I couldn't. I was so sick. So I quit the drugs, no drinking. I didn't even do coffee. And I grew up. I went back to school. So what else did I overcome? Self-image. And it took all these years. I'm 33 now. I'm finally happy with who I am, how I look, and I know I won't ever be perfect looking, body, physical, whatever. And I'm okay with that. But let me tell you, growing up with the nickname being Pig, it's going to really mess with you. I was nowhere near being chubby either. I was just taller, and not as petite as, little Asian girl. I have that Irishness in me, so that really, I guess, gave me a really bad relationship with the mirror, obviously, but also with food. I was always either starving myself, or like the fine line of bulimia. I never really purged, but I binged, and then I would just starve myself. I don't know what that's called, but and then I would exercise like 3 or 4 times a day, And, you know, even looking back at the pictures, I think I was 21 when I was at my worst with that. Eating only rice cereal and skim milk twice a day. And not even like a cup. It was just a little dish. Twice a day, and I worked out 3 times a day and nothing else. And when I look back at the pictures, I was so skinny. Like unhealthy skinny. So that's self-image was a big thing for me to overcome. Too chubby, too fat, too big. It was like this thing that was always repeated in my head. And now as a 33-year-old, I'm finally happy with myself. It took this long. Even after I lost some weight, after having Bella, I gained some weight. I lost almost 50 pounds, and yes, I was feeling healthier and clothes fit better, and my confidence did go up, but the self-acceptance was what was missing. And once I started running and feeling how strong I was, that's when I really came to terms with that part of my childhood, I guess. I'm fine. I'm fine with not being perfect. Perfect looking, perfect body. This is who I am, and it's the best I can do. As for how I see myself in the future, honestly, just continue doing what I'm doing. I'm happy with where I am. Fitness-wise and being a mom. And I am looking to become certified in being a personal trainer. I just need to buckle down and really just get my plan in action. I like my list, so. It turns out I lost a lot of sound, so I'm having to redo some of the scenes. One of the most important ones that I really wanted to make sure got in the video was after Scott killed himself after the abuse was found out. I was so depressed because I was unable to deal with what was going on. Yes, the abuse had stopped, but I wasn't allowed to talk about it. I was told to just shut my mouth and pretend everything was okay, that nothing was wrong to begin with. So I couldn't process really anything and deal with the aftermath. And so what I did was try to find ways to kill myself. I did pills, first of all. Just whatever I could find around the house, put it together, mix it with water. I think there was coffee at one point. Drink it down, and that went on for a few weeks because Carolyn caught on pretty quickly. But that just made me loopy. Didn't really do much of anything. I missed a lot of school. I tried the car trick, where I sat in the car with it running, garage door closed, doorways were blocked with towels, and I sat in there for a good 3 to 4 hours. Nothing happened. And I tried electrocuting myself by bringing in electronics into the bathtub with me, and curling iron, radios, you name it. I tried it, and I shouldn't be alive, let me tell you, with all the stuff I had thrown in there. I also tried making my own noose. I just couldn't get myself to get up on that chair and, try it out. It probably wouldn't have worked anyway, but I also tried to cut myself. That went on for years, just on and off. Luckily, I never knew what I was doing. Just hitting all the wrong veins, so I feel very lucky that my guardian angel has always been by my side, because of all the things I would have missed out on. And further makes me believe that I was kept alive for bigger reasons than I know. Bigger things will happen, and I'm excited. So why do I want to be part of 1st Phorm? The brand is about being unique and being you, and that's what I want to be a part of, because I fought really hard to be where I am, and I'm not going to change. I want to grow, but hopefully that will be with First Form if I get chosen. If not, maybe my story will have at least helped someone out there, so something good can come out of it. Otherwise, I think this is it. I can go to bed. Good night.